start off, I have one. I hope this is not a dumb question, but the title of the book and the series was translated in Spanish as Bobo, which is like a very soft word for a dumb person. But I was wondering, what's the original title?
It's Dunce.
Dunce, and is that's a word in Norwegian, or it's an English?
No, it's actually an English word. Yeah,
okay.
But it is also known in Norway. But it's we don't have a Norwegian word for the hat, the dunce cap. So you know,
so
the point.
That was lost in translation because we don't have. There's no. That's not the word for the dunce cap in Spanish.
No. I was a bit surprised. I was surprised about the title being Bobo, but I just trust the translators. So
no, I mean, since it's somehow this silly humor, it fits just right.
Yeah.
So, but now I know it's for the dunce hat.
Yeah, it is.
That takes me to the second question. Comic strips is an art form that has been dominated for over 100 years by American cartoonists.
Yep.
Now you reach a global audience with your comic book. Was it, or did you find any extra difficulties coming from Norway to reach a global audience?
Yeah, it's the obvious. It's hard to find a publisher who find interest, and also these days I think publishers are a bit afraid about strip format, because you know the newspapers aren't as important as they were, the printed newspapers. So it is a bit harder times for the printed comic strips, I guess. There's a lot of web comics, but what I do is more a little bit more traditional, maybe. So I think my comic is much better in a newspaper daily or in a collected book. Yeah,
I understand. Sorry.
Yeah, you asked if it's hard. Yeah, there's also the element that my comic universe is in the far north of Norway, so the strip, the characters live here, and but that, I think that has just been an advantage for me. That the universe is a bit different, and it's not so different from my everyday life, but it's pretty different from the average on Earth.
There is I'm sure there is a rich tradition of cartooning in all your countries, all Scandinavian countries, but they are little known outside of the region. I mean, there's Tove Jansson, and which a person your book mentioned, and I'm familiar with Teddy Christiansen, but there seems to be you guys, Scandinavian cartoons, seem to be little known outside of the region. I guess that because of the language barriers. But which are your favorite authors from the region? I'm really interested in what are we missing in the rest of the world.
Actually, when it comes to the newspaper strips, it's quite lively in Scandinavia right now in the last 25 years. So there are actually quite a lot of Norwegian strips in the Norwegian newspapers, whatever is left of Norwegian newspapers, but there are quite some, and all of them, well, almost all of them run Norwegian strips. So So we are a handful of artists. Maybe there are 12, 15 artists who have a full-time job doing newspaper strips. We also have monthly magazines in the everyday stores with comic strips. So those are several magazines. That's like 3, 4, 5 different magazines that come every month in stores with comic strips. So it's actually quite lively here. Yeah. So there's a lot of inspiration to find from Norwegian strips, but it is, of course, my comic is, I guess, well, inspired of the traditional, like Peanuts and Calvin and Hobbes and the old classics.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about your influences. It's very, to most readers, it will be obvious that you have you're very fond of Peanuts and Calvin and Hobbes, but I was wondering about your other influences. What is I think that creators, especially in comics, it's like baking a cake. You put most cakes are made about the same way, but everyone puts it's very specific and favorite ingredients in each of in the one you make. So I was wondering what else is in your cake besides the obvious.
Yeah, I guess that's quite a lot of European tradition also in my recipe, in my cake recipe. So when I grew up, I was reading mostly French and Belgian comics.
Mm-hmm.
So except for Peanuts, that was mostly what I was reading. I didn't read any superhero comics, so there wasn't much in the US comics for me, I guess, in the 80s when I grew up. So I was much more influenced by the French and Belgian comics like Asterix,
Mm-hmm.
Gaston Lagaffe, and yeah, those things.
No.
Lucky Luke.
I love Lucky Luke.
Yeah, me too.
But he's in Mexico. We got the Spaniard editions of mostly Asterix, but we also got a little bit of Tintin or Tantan.
Yeah.
Lucky Luke, we got what was the least popular of them, and I really love Morris and Goscinny's work on that.
Yeah.
Your humor. This is by the way, the strip is print on a newspaper every day, or
yeah. There are around 30 newspapers who run my strip every day, but there is one main newspaper who has all the new strips. So the other newspapers, they have the older strips. So I have a main newspaper who runs this 6 days a week.
6 days a week.
Yeah. So that makes one book collection every year. So this is a 1 year collection. So I have these 5 books in Norwegian.
Yeah, I know. How many of them have been translated into other languages?
2 of them are in French, and 1 in Spanish now in Mexico.
Not English so far?
No, not yet.
Oh, they're missing. If you, I wonder if you're familiar with Mafalda.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I love it.
Well, if it makes you feel better, Daniel Divinsky, who was the original publisher of Mafalda in Argentina, once told me that when he tried to sell Mafalda to the United States syndicates, he was told that they couldn't run it because it was way too intelligent from audiences.
Yeah. That's comfort.
I hope it is. Your characters are very lovable. This father and son strip is very heartwarming.
Thanks.
I understand that Gustav was inspired on your older son. That you have 3 sons.
I have a daughter and 2 sons. Yeah, but when I started doing this strip, it was in 2016. My youngest was 9, and I found that 9 is a very nice age for characters. So Gustav was inspired by him, I guess, at the time, and now my youngest son is almost 17, and he's taller than me. So my character is stuck at 9. So every autumn when he starts school, he starts in the 4th grade. So that's kind of sad, but it's how I decided to make it. He's not getting any older in the comic.
And do you plan to the characters to remain at their current age in the strip, to never grow old?
It's a tough decision to make, because I get older and this main character is sort of based on me, so it's hard to tell. But so far, Gustav hasn't become any older. And I told my editor, because my dog is an important character in the comic, and I'm very soft-hearted and very fond of my dog. And I told my editor that when he dies, he will also die in my comic.
I knew that. I knew that. But that's a very tough subject for a comic, for a family comic strip, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit rough. And she said, what do you think if Snoopy had died in the early 60s? Would that be a good idea? So that's a good point. So we'll see.
If you could get, if you could reach audiences the way Pinos did, then you could keep Brego forever.
Yeah, I
no
think I mean, yeah, he can live on in the comic, but he's still alive though.
Great.
Yeah.
The first, I was wondering if the first volume collects all the whole run, the whole original run from the newspaper. Did you make a selection from your strips?
The Norwegian book is complete, but the Spanish book is actually a bit filtered.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I started this strip, I wasn't quite sure what the tone would be, and it was a bit rougher maybe in the edges in the beginning. So, and the Mexican publisher, they wanted it to be more child friendly, so I gave them full freedom to just skip the strips that is too rough for kids if you find it too rough. So I think they left out some strips.
Oh, so we got a light version, a lighter version.
Yeah, because you know, Calvin and Hobbes and Peanuts, it's also read by children. So and I think my comic has become more and more child friendly. I don't have any urge to provoke anyone, so it's become a bit softer, and it's more and more about the family relation and also about the children in the strip. So I guess it's turning more and more into a kids strip, but my oldest readers are more than over 90, so I guess it can be read by anyone.
Yeah, but now I died to know what was left out.
Yeah, you need a Norwegian book to
but I don't read Norwegian. I just read English. I asked you that because on the main characters, the working environment. I understand you quit your position as a graphic designer at an agency. You were the owner also, right? Or
yeah,
you were associated. Yeah, same here. I can.
We have the same life.
Yeah. But I was when I read those strips set in his with his work companions, I was wondering if it was the graphic design firm environment. It's never specific on the strip, but I can relate to that environment. Wondering.
Yeah, it's quite similar. Just sitting in front of the computer and trying to make some client sort of happy. So I guess it looks a bit like a graphic design agency.
Yeah, it does. And I was I know you've been asked this a lot of times, but I was especially fascinated by Borg. How do you call the dolphin or?
Yeah. Børge. It's called Børge.
Yeah. So just if you feel like it, I would like to know if I don't want to know the reason, but I just would like to know if there's a local joke behind it, for one of your friends.
Yeah, my best friend in the comic is a fish, and that's a quite obvious thing to wonder why is he a fish, and most of the characters are humans and not animals, except for the dog, of course. It was a bit random and not planned, but I think if you want to hear how it appeared, it was when I was doing my autobio comics on and off with this Dunce cap, drawing myself with the Dunce cap, and I moved to the far north of Norway just for a year, and because I lived in Oslo and that's where the other comic artists are, and I moved to way north in the cold and up here in the north. Well, I'm here still 23 years later, but I was planning to stay 1 year, and the fish was a bit, there's a lot of fishermen in this part of the country and the fish industry, and it was sort of my northern Norwegian friend. I like telling my friends in Oslo that I have at least one friend here, but he's local, so he's a fish. So it was just since I just came here for 1 year, this was my northern Norwegian friend, and he stuck with me, and I stayed longer than I planned, so I'm still here.
Okay, now I know. Do you draw your originals on paper, or are they digital created?
I used to draw every strip on paper, and I'm the one like who loves to draw with ink on paper and texture. And after many years in the design business, I just love to work without a screen, to work like just organically. So I was quite certain that I would do this strip on paper because that's what I love most. But after like 150 strips, you start to feel the urgency of doing 6 strips every week, and also the writing takes a long time, and you have to, I guess, put more and more effort in the writing because you realize how important the writing is. You can't save a good script you can't save a bad script with good drawing. So yeah, I got so busy, and I started flirting with the iPad, and I realized that this iPad could imitate my style pretty good. There was a guy who made a brush pack of my drawing style, so I had these very organic brushes for my strip, and yeah, so I think the book you have read, the one that is translated to Spanish, that starts around the time when I started going digital. So the strips that are before that one, they are all done on paper.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. I thought you combined both.
When I look back, I can't really tell myself which one is the last one on paper and the first one on the iPad. So,
how is your relation with your earlier work? When you look, I mean, when this book comes, you are 5 years in the future or 6 years in the future of the guy who was drawing those strips. How do you read them? How do you relate that younger self?
When I speak to you now, I really wish you would have read the next 5 books, because
I do also.
because I am happy with the one that you have read, but I have a lot to show you, and I hope the publisher will publish more of my books in this series, because it is a development in it, and I hope it gets better. Yeah, it's like every artist you talk to, they will always find something they are unhappy about when you look back 5, 6, 7 years. So, of course, also in the writing. So,
yeah,
I feel that it's
sorry.
getting better.
Yeah, I guess Brad Geiger, our fellow cartoonist, he says that you can't get worse at something that you do every day. So
yeah, exactly. You can only get better or stay the same.
So
yeah, but I try to do some research, and also in the line work, but also in the writing, to try to learn something on the way. And yeah, I'm happy if you can see that there's been a development throughout the book and also throughout these 6 books.
I'm eager to read the rest of the series, because I guess the characters, as in all good comic strips, I mean, even in the first book, you can see that their personality is developing. So
Yeah. I often appreciate that if I see that the artist has developed. If I read a comic book and I see there's a development from first page to last page, that the author actually learned something on the way. So, and I think you can definitely see that in my work.
I have 2 questions. Maybe they're a bit personal. I mean, I was fascinated by your musical references, because I'm also a big fan of Pixies and Sex Pistols. So I was wondering, if you hear music while drawing your strip, and what music is that? If you have a special taste for drawing your comic strip.
Yeah, Pixies is a very important band for me. Sex Pistols not so much, but yeah, it was a fun reference to have in one of the strips. But when you sit at home and draw, you get to listen to a lot of music. So I've been exploring more and more different genres, but I guess this post-punk genre is the one that is closest to my heart. The Pixies and the Cure and everything in that 80s, 90s underground.
Yeah, I that's my cup of tea too.
Yeah.
Just about to finish this, I am really curious about your novels. I understand that you have published a couple of novels.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you're familiar with, there are really just a handful of cartoonists or comic book artists that also write stories.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with Fontana Rosa from Argentina.
No.
He published several short stories books. So I do that, but I know very little people who do that. So
yeah,
I'm curious about your novels.
Yeah, what happened was I was always in love with comics since I was a child, and that was my big dream, to become a comic artist. And in the 90s, I did a lot of underground comics as a young man, and we even made our own little publisher who made these underground comics. And well, it came to a point when I just had to make a living, and I needed to get a normal job, and I suddenly quit comics. Started working with graphic design, and I thought that I had done my last comic. I just thought, okay, now I've done that, I can do something different for the rest of my life. And then in these 14 years that I didn't touch any comics, I explored the writing, of fiction, and just writing text. that ended up being 2 novels. And then when I sat down to work on the 3rd novel, I just started drawing, and I was back in comics.
But I was wondering what are they about? The novel. I mean,
Yeah,
it's general fiction or genre
yeah,
fiction?
it's classic fiction stories. Yeah, quite two different books, quite different stories from everyday life in Norway.
Yeah, I'd love to read those.
Yeah.
But my Norwegian is so rusty.
Yeah.
I had, ever since I knew that The Empire Strikes Back was filmed in Norway, I always had this thing for Norway. Never been there, but it's on my bucket list. So
I had a colleague once who claimed that he was one of the stormtroopers. He was an extra. Yeah. He got shot, he said, on the mountain there.
Great. So now just to wrap it up, what are you working currently now? And that's a double question, because of course you're working on Dunce, but I was wondering if you've ever been tempted by doing a longer format comic book story.
Yeah, I get tempted all the time, and actually too much, because when you do very short strips, it's something you long for is doing a longer story. So I get to do that every year with a Christmas special. That's quite a lot of that's quite very popular in Norway. The comic artists make their own Christmas special magazine, and it's a longer story with the strip characters. So I have been doing that for 3 years now. So I'm just finishing my Christmas story now for this year. And I even started more like a manga-ish comics book with an American writer, but I think it will take quite a long time to finish. So it just has to be like a fun side project, and I need to put all my energy now into the strip, I guess.
So, but if you make Christmas specials, you have a very healthy environment for comics in Norway. Your American colleagues could be envious.
Yeah, we do have snow here. Yeah, that's true. And one of them is, I think one of those Christmas stories are here. Maybe not. Yeah.
How long are them? I mean, how many pages?
They are like 20 pages or something. Yeah. Oh. So it's nice to explore the characters and the universe in a bigger format.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, well, thank you very much for this conversation. Is there anything you'd like to add for your Mexican readers now that you...
Yeah, I'm coming to Mexico to say hi in Guadalajara.
Are you?
Yeah, in November.
Great. I go every year, but I was planning... I do. I somehow I somehow, you could say, I'm one of Mexico's graphic novelists.
Yeah.
But I'm also a crime novelist.
Yeah.
But this year I was planning to not going, because I have you laugh at me, but I have a manga experiment.
Okay.
And it's taking so long that it won't be ready for this year's Guadalajara book fair, so I'm not planning to go this year. But if you
think you need to change your plans.
Sorry?
You should go. Yeah, you need to change the plans and come.
Now you're tempting me. It's very tiresome. I mean, it's like going. I've been going. I've never missed one for 23 years. I was saying this year I'm going to rest from Guadalajara. But if you're coming, that's a great temptation. It's really a temptation. Anyway, almost for sure, you have to pass through Mexico City, and we share publisher. My graphic novels are put out by Océano. So I hope so we can arrange a meeting at some point. I'd love to meet you, and I'd love to talk shop.
Yeah.
It's been great. Thank you for the interview. I really hope Bobo, it's a very successful series in Mexico also.